Jesus Christ, Arthur, somebody get Chris Hansen on the line. Liza, I don't think he's that kind of doctor. The prologue begins in Louisiana 1927 with what appears to be an angry mob of townsfolk floating down the river with their torches and pitchforks. Meanwhile, at the hotel, a man paints a strange and ominous landscape, and a lady named Emily reads from a book named The Ebion. The evil townsfolk make it to the hotel. Storming right into room 36 where the man is painting, they begin to beat on him, meanwhile calling him a warlock, who cursed the town and all the people in it. They drag him down to the basement, nailing him quite literally to the fucking wall. We cut back to Emily, who reads from the book, quote,
"Woe be unto him who opens one of the 7 gateways to hell, because through that gateway evil will invade the world."
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back, and welcome to Lucio Fulci's The Beyond. We flash forward to 1981, introducing us to the main lead, Liza, played by Kate McCall, talking with an architect about renovation plans for the hotel. She greets one of the painters who's spooked by a sudden appearance of a ghostly person.
The eyes. Her eyes.
Right now!
Those eyes! Those horrible yellow eyes!
Anywho, the doctor arrives, played by the second lead, David Warbeck. Dr. John McCabe attends to the patient, exclaiming he needs to go to the hospital. And just like that, the doctor's off. Liza and the architect Martin, played by Mitchell Mirabella, discuss the problem at hand when Martin stumbles across the painting from the beginning. Spooky things soon to begin to happen at the unnamed hotel. At least the plumber's here, and I can finally take a shit. They make their way down to the basement, being greeted by one of the creepiest maids I've ever seen. So after the formalities, they go their separate ways, with Joe the plumber wandering down the basement, eventually arriving at the location where they nailed the artist in the prologue. We quickly cut to Liza scolding the groundskeeper, Arthur, who was in Liza's room looking for keys. Back with Joe, a mossy wall breaks apart in front of his eyes. All is well until... R.I.P. Joe. Later on, Liza is driving down the legendary Lake Pontchartrain Causeway in Louisiana. Shout out to the cinematographers for capturing a stunning shot. Not once, but twice. On the second shot though, that ghastly woman who appeared to the painter suddenly appears, accompanied with a doggo. She introduces herself as Emily. Oh, so this is the lady from the prologue.
I've been looking for you.
Girl, you're blind. Stop it. Liza, Emily, and the doggo named Dickie teleport to Emily's place. They make themselves comfortable with Emily even playing the piano. Emily warns Liza to leave the hotel at once, for it is cursed. Meanwhile, Martha, the creepy, low-key kinda hot maid from earlier, is down in the basement looking for Joe, coming across a rotten corpse and even Joe's dead body. We jump into the future at the hospital with Joe's dead body and Dr. John McCabe stitching him up. Eventually, Dr. John leaves the other doctor to play with his brainwave machine. And play he does. But he seems to be getting a whole lot of nothing, eventually getting a phone call that he's needed elsewhere. Mother and daughter make their way down the corridor. I'm guessing this is Joe's wife and daughter. Wait a minute, what the fuck does that sign say? Do not entry. Ah, those crazy Italians. Once inside, Marianne, Joe's wife, dresses his body. With the brain scan surprisingly quiet, she mourns for a little bit before something causes her to scream. The little girl named Jill, concerned for her mother, runs inside only to find her mom's face melting from spilled acid. Not wanting to get caught by the acid, Jill tries to make a run for it. Sadly, she runs into Buddy Boy over here. We shift our attention back to Dr. John, who has met up with Liza. She begins to trauma dump to the doctor.
So, what did you do in the Big Apple?
Just about everything a girl could do, without losing her good English breeding and reputation.
Liza, I don't think he's that kind of doctor. They continue the conversation, talking about the hotel, as well as Arthur and Martha, when the doctor suddenly gets a call from the hospital. Traveling a bit more into the future, we attend Joe the plumber and wife Marianne's funeral.
Courage, my child.
Ah, damn. Later on that night, Emily visits Liza to give her the story behind the hotel. She begins telling her that after a painter named Schweik found a key to one of the 7 gateways to hell, people in the hotel began to disappear. She cuts herself off when she feels another presence in the room. Liza tries to reassure her there's no one else in the room, but Emily is convinced someone is there.
It's him. He's here again.
Suddenly, the bell for room 36 rings again. Emily explains that was Schweik's room, where he was killed, even though we saw him get dragged into the basement.
Emily! Emily!
Y'all didn't catch that? Let's rewind the tape. Absolute cinema. The following morning, Liza opens up room 36, which appears to be untouched. Once inside, she finds the Ebion book, the same one Emily read from the beginning. Cue the spooky stuff. Terrified, Liza makes a run for the exit when a figure appears at the door. Luckily, it's John, who stopped by for a visit. They go to investigate the bathroom where the body was. All they find is the nails on the wall. Liza admits maybe the stories Emily told her are getting to her. John asks who is Emily, explaining he doesn't know anybody by that name. That's when Liza notices the book is gone. Jump to the next day, Liza is talking with the architect when she spots the Ebion book inside a bookstore.
There was another book here. A different one.
You want to buy the book?
Turns out it was the wrong book. Oh well. We then follow the architect who is at the town's hall library looking at the original plans of the hotel. Hey, it's the director making a cameo, and it looks like he's off to lunch, leaving the architect by himself. He starts to look over the blueprints when boom, a flash of lightning, he falls and gets paralyzed. A swarm of fucking tarantulas appear attacking my dude's face, ripping his face apart. It would have been a great scene if it weren't for this annoying ass fucking high-pitched screeching in the background. John arrives at Emily's place, which by the way looks way worse than the last time we saw it. Stumbling through the mess and clutter, he finds the Ebion book. We leave the smart doctor to read the book. We cut back to Martha, who's begun cleaning room 36. She drains the tub when Joe's corpse appears within the water. He rises and puts an end to Martha. Yuck. We're back with the doctor once again, who's still reading the book, but is also taking a better look at Schweik's corpse. Emily and Dickie arrive at the hotel, but they don't seem to be alone. Emily immediately goes on the defensive, asking who's there when Schweik's corpse appears, tripping Emily.
No, Schweik! Go away! I don't want to go back!
So Emily gets surrounded, she pleads and begs not to go back. As a last-ditch effort, she orders Dickie to attack, and that he does, taking out Schweik. However, it was all for nothing. A little while later, Liza arrives at the hotel, making her way down to the basement, where Joe had been killed. She notices another lamp there, suspecting it's Arthur. She calls his name out, but there's no answer. Jesus Christ, Arthur, somebody get Chris Hansen on the line. She narrowly escapes, running straight into John's arms. After Liza calms down a bit, John still doesn't believe the whole spooky spiritual stuff, even after reading the book. Furthermore, explaining that Emily never existed along with the man in room 36. So they head down to the basement, but there's no sign of Arthur.
Who are you, Liza? Who are you really?
What a question. Why'd you ask?
This hotel is one of the 7 gateways of hell.
Wait, that kinda gave me Rosa de Guadalupe vibes. Let's run that back real fast. So with John saying the magical phrase, the hotel awakens. They drive off as soon as the dead begin to rise. They arrive at a very empty hotel. John and Liza retrieve a gun from his office. Now it's a fight for survival as patients have been zombified, typical horror movie trope as John and Liza split up. Liza ends up at the morgue with Jill. John runs into Dr. Harris, who has no idea what's going on. They try to make a run for it, but Dr. Harris isn't so lucky. John makes it to the elevator with Liza and the little girl Jill already inside. They head for the exit, but they're surrounded on all sides, so they decide to hold out in the autopsy room. A room full of fresh corpses. One even attacks Liza. We even get an appearance from Shrike, who refuses to go down like George Romero in Call of the Dead. If you know, you know. So a possessed Jill attacks Liza, and John, being the fucking savage that he is, with zero hesitation, shoots Jill right in the fucking face. Homie said nobody's laying a finger on my lady.
It's like John Wayne.
So John, Wayne, and Liza make another run for it, only to end up at the basement of the hotel. That's when they see fog coming from the hole where Joe died. With nowhere else to go, they travel deeper inside. They end up inside what appears to be the barren landscape painting. The same painting that Shrike was working on at the beginning of the movie. No matter the direction they look at, it's all the same. They still make a run for it.
And you will face the sea of darkness, and all therein that may be explored.
With that, their fate is sealed, their souls forever trapped to wander the barren wasteland of hell, or better known as the Beyond. An Italian classic for the books. Not gonna lie though, it's a tad bit boring in some parts. In others though, it keeps you at the edge of your seat. Here's some of my favorite parts, starting off with the prologue. What a great way to start the movie, especially with the fire effect on Emily. That's a top 10 credit intro right there. Next up is the Green Goblin reference.
The eyes. Her eyes.
¿De qué las vas a querer, Peter? ¿De maíz o de arroz?
When I first saw that acid scene, I couldn't help but cringe, not because of the face melting, but Jill watching her mom turn into a bloody red pile, all the while her dead dad is right there next to her. While we're on the topic of Jill, Lucio Fulci, the director, did not have to kill her off like that. One of the more gnarlier head explosions of the 80s, only behind Scanners and Maniac. Let's get away from the gory stuff and talk about some story elements I enjoyed. For starters, I think the hotel itself, being the gateway to hell, is a cool concept. Another favorite part of mine is how some characters go blind throughout the movie. From my very, very limited research, what I have found confirms my suspicion, which is that characters go blind due to their exposure to the supernatural on different levels, which I'd like to take a step even further as to say that they're blinded as to also be kept as servants or vessels. The first example I have is Emily. Though she would have been roughly in her 70s, she was blinded and kept young in order to serve as some sort of groundskeep to the hotel, and in order to lure Liza into a false sense of security. However, in every interaction they had, she warned Liza to stay away, ultimately costing Emily her life. The second example I have is Jill. While the action of watching her mom melt didn't cause it, it's what happened after, when she opened the door and old homeboy pops out. I think that's when it happened. Or who knows, maybe it was at the funeral. Because you know who else was at the funeral?
Well, actually, yes, I do. It's my mom.
That's right, Emily and Dickie. Alright, enough goofs, let's talk about my least favorite parts of the movie. Or part of the movie. And let me preface this by saying I have nothing against the actress. I believe she is beautiful and talented. And also because I wouldn't be able to do what she does. But for me, personally, the main actress who plays Liza, Kate McCall, is a tad bit boring. Again, nothing against the actress, but her performance in this is a bit stale and boring.
Client? There isn't a soul here. Yeah.
She does, however, appear in two other Fulci movies, the first being City of the Living Dead, which is the first in the Gates of Hell trilogy, which is followed by The Beyond, and House by the Cemetery, with City of the Living Dead being about a priest who hangs himself, which happens to open the door to the Gates of Hell, which causes a reporter and a psychic to try to close the door before the dead arise and take over the world. And House by the Cemetery is about a couple and their kid who move to Massachusetts that just happens to also be one of the 7 gateways of hell. However, this time, we're not dealing with zombies, we're dealing with a supernatural serial killer. And again, I believe both of those performances are a little bit better than this one, although I think that the script for The Beyond is a little bit better than the other two. Alright guys, I think that's going to be all for me for today. I'm going to give this movie an 8 out of 10. I got 2 new uploads in the works, the first being the first ever video in our Disturbed Discovery series, where we look at more extreme cinema where we cross the lines, movies involving real on-screen sex, real dead bodies, borderline or straight up fetish pornos, and so much more. You don't want to miss it. The second video is going to be a top 10 video. I won't reveal the topic just yet, or maybe I already have somewhere in the video. And that's all folks, I'll catch you guys on the next one.